Shabbat Shalom. So as we, Spirit and Truth worshipers, get prepared for our 4 readings for today. And I'm trying to find my thing. I think we're in 27 this week, right? Yeah.
20 to 30.
Yeah. And if I can find, there we go. Little 12 portions. So let's go to Exodus chapter 27. Chapter 27. Let me grab my glasses. I can see and I can read because I'll be doing a lot of reading today since we have the select few.
You heard the squeakers, didn't
Yeah.
you? Going in there, I kept saying, I hope I can read today.
No, I got it.
All right.
We can have
Every one of them's a long one.
Huh?
I said every one of the chapters are a long one.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll knock it out. Make sure I can see. Oh, yeah. Whew. I can see it all now. All right. So as we begin in chapter 27, verse 20. Now, the thing is that last week we had a little bit of questions that we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so with those questions, wanted to deal with that. We were talking about written some of this down, but I guess I did somewhere. All right, yeah. We're talking about they were doing a tabernacle, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I guess if I ask a lot of questions, I'm gonna have to answer a few of them myself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that is determined that Mishkan, which is a term that is used for the temple, which means dwelling place. We determine in studying and going through the Hebrew and coming up with the root words, which is shakan, which means neighbor or someone who dwells by, nearby. What's that?
Spell shakan.
SAHKHAN.
And that means neighbor?
Yeah, or someone who dwells nearby.
All right.
All right. Okay. So at the time that we were reading last week in where were we at last week? The second part in these in First Kings.
First Kings.
Yeah, we're reading about Solomon, and he was completing the temple. Now, that was taking place 500 years later, after this instructions were given to Moses about the tabernacle that they were carrying around. So when we're talking about YAH and his temple, and him talking about that he wants to dwell among his people, when we have an understanding of the word Mishkan that we just gave, what does that lead you to believe that he is now talking about when he talks about dwelling among his people? Remember what the root word is.
Mishkan.
What is the root word? You asked for the spelling a minute ago.
Yeah, Shechem.
Okay. And what does that mean?
Neighbor or someone who dwells nearby.
Okay. So when he says he wants to dwell among us,
All right.
what is he saying?
He wants to be our neighbor. He wants to be in our midst.
All right. Well, yeah.
He's going to be here.
Right. So he wants to be as we would see our neighbor, somebody who is there, somebody, when you have a house and you have a neighbor, that's somebody that you look forward to seeing, somebody that you will interact with, someone who's present. And so that's what he's saying when he's saying he wants to dwell with his people or among his people. He wants to be as close as a neighbor, as one who dwells next to you. So when you hear the scriptures that are often quoted, when people say that there's only 2 commandments, and those are to love YAH with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and the second is to what?
Love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. So when you think of what he's saying and what those 2 scriptures are, how does that relate?
Well, really, if we are going to abide by his commands, we shouldn't be seeing anything in society today but love.
True. What about the loving YAH and your neighbor?
Well, that's what I said. We shouldn't see anything but love. But everybody has not embraced YAH.
True.
So I suppose that may be where some of the problem might lay. This week at the tax thing, I was, reviewing the paperwork for this couple, and the man was 90, and he kept hollering, he was 90. I'm old, I'm 90. And told him, I said, you're not old, you're young. And you were given a gift this morning, 2 of them, when you opened your eyes. Uh-huh. I said, yeah, you ought to be saying thank you to the Creator and hallelujah. So his wife was there. And she said, yes, you really ought to be saying thank you, Lord. I didn't say anything. Got through with their paperwork, and she says to me as they're getting ready to go take their seat, do you know Jesus? I said, I know Yeshua. Okay. And she trotted right on.
Yeah. Yeah. She didn't catch it.
No, she got it. She got it. She got it. She didn't want to go there. Lynette called me that evening, and she had a similar encounter at her workplace. So we concluded that YAH was working through the 2 of us, and she said, I just wish we'd known that years ago that that's how you make them run. Well, the Jehovah's Witnesses came past her house, and that's what she did. Yeah.
Yeah, it don't take much to make them run. So, but yeah, as we were saying, that Yah will, he wants to dwell among us, that we should love him with all our heart, our soul, and our strength, and our neighbor as ourselves. But it's also saying that since Yah is our neighbor, we should also love our neighbor with all of our heart, our soul, and our strength.
Mm-hmm.
That we as you said, should show nothing but love. But to expound on that is that it's more than just being kind and skipping and being loving in that sense, but it's also being going that extra mile, as Scripture has told us, to go beyond, even when things are grievous to us, to still show that type of love. And going back over what we were talking about from last week, do you remember what the atonement seat was made of?
Acacia wood.
And covered with
Gold.
what kind of
Everything
gold?
was.
Just any old gold?
Well.
That's the fun part when you're the only one in class. That means that
you get to
the heat.
all the questions.
You get the heat. Well, we got Miss
Yeah.
Denise over there. We can hear her in the background. She just set up.
Well, tell her to speak up.
Yeah, she just joined us. You remember what kind of gold that was put on the ark, the atonement seat?
Mm-mm.
Any idea?
No.
What kind of gold?
There are different kinds of gold.
Well, think about it.
Well, there's different kinds of carats. I know 10 carat, 14 carat, 12 carat, 24 carat.
All right. What's 24 carat considered?
The purest.
Okay. So what kind of gold do you think?
24 carat.
Is that what it said?
Oh, I don't know what it said, but
Pure gold.
Okay.
Y'all making this rougher than what it's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No elements.
Yeah.
No other minerals mixed in there with it.
Right. It's supposed to be pure gold. So, and so that is a representation of atonement and covering, and how that's supposed to be. Now, the showbread. Do you remember how many loaves of showbread there was?
12, weren't there?
There was 12. And do you remember what they represent? Or what do you think they represent?
Well, I thought it would represent the 12 tribes.
That's true. So, the showbread is also considered the bread of face, and also the bread of presence. So, and do you remember what it's across from?
The Holy of Holies?
That's there, but that's not in the same room.
Yeah.
It was called the menorah.
Oh.
Yeah. So, when we give the Aaronic blessing,
yeah,
what's one of the things that we say in the Aaronic blessing?
That he bless us and keep us and let his face shine upon us.
His face to shine upon us. So, in the understanding that the menorah gives off what?
Light.
Okay. and understanding that the showbread is also the bread of faith and the bread of presence. What does that help us to understand, especially that is representing the 12 tribes?
That we can see it. Who's standing next to you?
Remember the Aaronic blessing.
His face shine upon you.
Okay, so that is part of that. So where is the menorah and the showbread? You remember the three areas of the tabernacle?
The inner court, the outer court, and the Holy of Holies, right?
Okay. So where do you think the menorah and the showbread are?
The inner court.
Okay. So if they're in the inner court and it's saying that in the Aaronic blessing, may his face shine upon you, where do you think the desire for us to be at will be?
In the inner court.
Okay. So when what I'm trying to show is all this is a symbol of all the things that we're saying. Not so much that we're in the outer course where just everybody's out skipping around and doing things, but that you will be in an inner court to where the face of Yah can shine upon you. One of the questions that we had also was about the almond blossoms that were on the menorah. And the name for that almond blossom is Shaked, S-H-A. With the I can't even think of what it's called now. Apostrophe. Apostrophe.
Oh.
K-E-D.
Okay.
And that means to watch or to wake or to be diligent. The name that they use for that. And it also represents the fact that the almond tree is the first tree to blossom. So that's part of the symbolism of that. Is that's where that comes from. So a lot of times you will hear about that as we said, that Yah will watch over us, that the children of Israel will wake up, that the children of Israel will be diligent. And so that's where we ended off last week as we were reading all of the stuff about the ark and about the lampstand and where it was coming to and what it was dealing with. And then we were getting ready to get into the good part, which is 27, starting at verse 20. And it says, and you are to command the children of Israel to bring you clear oil, pressed with olives, for the light, to cause the lamp to burn continually. And in the tent of meetings outside the veil, which is before the witness, Aaron and his sons are to tend to it from evening until morning before Yahuwah, a law forever to their generations from the children of Israel. So, as we read just that little small segment, what type of oil is supposed to be used?
Olive.
Just any old olive oil?
Pure olive oil.
Yeah.
Clear. Or does
All
yours
right.
say pure?
Mine says pure, but that's
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Well, I was just checking. But all right, pure or clear. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to understand that the olive oil, which is being used, um, is to represent the light of Yah.
Mm-hmm.
That is supposed to shine on the 12 tribes of Israel. It's the pure oil or the clear oil is the oil that burns the best. And with that representation of what is shining on us, it also indicates the presence of Yah and how we need to be clear as to who we have and what we have, that is, whose presence is on us. So, in trying to hash out what we just combining what we had from what we read last week with and bringing it in with what we're talking about this week, Yah is wanting to dwell with us. Correct?
Yes.
Now, would the thought be that he wants to dwell with us where we're at, or is the thought that he wants us to dwell with him where he's at? See, when you first thought about Yah dwelling with his people, where were you thinking?
Well, that he would come where I am.
And that's the thing, and that's why I was trying to point out that he wants us in the inner part. He wants us in to where the tent of meetings is. He wants us in to the area where his presence, the pureness of him is, and that's the only thing, because when you're in that area, everything is closed off from top and bottom. It's totally pitch black in there.
Mm-hmm.
You enter in there, and the only light that's in there is the light of the menorah. So that is the only thing. So in a sense, he wants us to be to where only his influence is upon the people. So out there in the outer court, where everybody is, you got all the stuff going on, the sacrifices, the burning, and people migrating and walking around. But his desire is more for us to be in the inner part, and not so much just anywhere where he has to come to us, but he wants us to be basically at the point where we're in with him. Now, understand, in our mindset, or I'll just put it like this, in my mindset, that a lot of times it is, I got to go to this small area and just be in there. But in actuality, Yah's everywhere. And so the thing is that we have to remove out of our area those things that are not of him, to allow only his influence to be in our area. So even where you were thinking before, where you were at, we have to, in a sense, broaden that area to be considered part of the inner part of it, and remove all of that outer stuff that does not fully pertain to Yah outside of it. You guys catch that? J-Name, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Denise, you got any questions? Anything you want to add to that? Okay. So also understand that that this is what it's talking about whenever you read about YAH's light shining, or our light shining, is for us to reflect that light that YAH has in the inner circle, in the inner chamber, so that others can see that light. So when we say those prayers and things of that nature, that's what we're referring to. So I'll go ahead and read 28, which is a good one. It says, and you bring Aaron and your brother and his sons with him from among the children of Israel for serving as priests to me. Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, Eleazar, and Itmar, sons of Aaron. And you shall make set apart garments for Aaron, your brother, for esteem and for comeliness. And you speak to all the wise of heart, whom I fill with a spirit of wisdom, and they shall make garments for Aaron and set him apart for him to serve as priests to me. And these are the garments which they make: a breastplate, a shoulder garment, a robe, an embroidered long shirt, a turban, and a girdle. And they shall make set apart garments for Aaron, your brother, and his sons, for him to serve as priests for me. And they shall take the gold and the blue and the purple and the scarlet material and the fine linen, and shall make a shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and fine woven linen, the work of a skilled workman. And it is to have 2 shoulder pieces, joined at its 2 edges, and so it is joined together. And the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, which is on it, is of the same workmanship, made of gold, of blue, of purple, and scarlet material, fine woven linen. And you shall take 2 showem stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel, 6 of their names on one stone, and the remaining 6 on the other stone, according to their birth, with the work of an engraver in stone, like the engraving of a signet. Engrave the 2 stones with the names of the sons of Israel, and set them in settings of gold. And you shall put the 2 stones on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment with that stones of remembrance of the sons of Israel. And Aaron shall bear their names before Yahweh on his 2 shoulders for remembrance. You shall make settings of gold and 2 chains of clean gold, like the braided cords, and fasten the braided chains to the settings. And you shall make a breastplate of right ruling, a work of a skilled workman, like the work of the shoulder garment. Make it of gold, and of blue, and of purple, and scarlet material, and fine woven linen. It is square, doubled its span and length, and the span and its width. And you shall put settings of stone on it, 4 rows of stone. The first row is a ruby, a topaz, and an emerald. And the second row is a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. The third row is a jacinth, and a agate, and amethyst. The 4th row is a beryl, and a shoam, and a jasper. They are set in gold settings. The stones are according to the names of the sons of Israel, 12 according to their names, like the engraving of a signet, each one with its own name for the 12 tribes. And you shall make braided chains, a corded work, and okay, where was I at?
22.
22. Okay. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, for the breastplate, and put on 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And you shall put 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings which are on the ends of the breastplate. And the other 2 ends of the 2 cords you fasten to 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment in the front. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on the edge of it, which are on the inner side of the shoulder garment. And you shall make 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces beneath the shoulder garment, on the front of it. Close the seam above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and they bind the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment, using a blue cord, so that it is above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, so that the breastplate does not come loose from the shoulder garment. Aaron shall bear the names of the sons of Israel on the breastplate of right ruling over his heart, when he goes into the set apart place for remembrance before Yahweh continually. And to the breastplate of the right ruling you shall use the Urim and Thummim, and they shall be on the heart of Aaron when he goes in before Yahweh. Aaron shall bear the right ruling of the children of Israel on his heart before Yahweh continually. You shall make a robe of the shoulder garment all blue, and the opening for his head shall be in the middle of it, a woven binding all around its opening, like the opening of a scaled armor, so that it does not tear. And on its hem you shall make pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet material. All around the hem, bells of gold between them all around, a golden bell and a pomegranate, a golden bell and a pomegranate on the hem of the robe all around. And it shall be upon Aaron to attend it, and its sound shall be heard when he goes into the set apart place before Yahweh, and when he comes out, so that he does not die. And you shall make a plate of clean gold, and engrave on it, like the engraving of a signet, set apartness to Yahweh. And you shall put it on a blue cord, and it shall be on the turban. Is to be on the front of the turban, and it shall be on the forehead of Aaron. And Aaron shall bear the guilt of the set apart gifts which the children of Israel set apart in all their set apart gifts, and it shall always be on his forehead for remembrance of them before Yahweh. And you shall weave a long shirt of fine linen, and you shall make the turban of fine linen, and you shall make the girdle of woven work, and make the long shirt of Aaron's son, and you shall make girdles for them, and you shall make turbans for them, for esteem and comeliness. And you shall put them on Aaron your brother, and on his sons with him, and shall anoint them, and shall ordain them, and shall set them apart, and they shall serve as priests to me, and make fine linen trousers for them to cover their nakedness, reaching from the waist to the thighs. And they shall be on Aaron and on his sons, and they shall be into the tent of meetings, and when they come near the altar to attend the set apartness, so that they do not bear crookedness and die, a law forever to him and his seed after him. So, Shabbat Shalom, Miss Ronette.
And Shabbat Shalom.
All right. So, we were just reading chapter 28 of Exodus. We're reading about
Yes, I heard you.
what.
But I'm gonna be on mute though.
Okay.
You're gonna hear a whole lot in the background.
Okay. That's no problem. So
I'm enjoying it.
all right. So let me go over this. Anybody got any questions or anything that they want to add? Denise? MD?
Got a question.
Go ahead.
What is Urim and Thummim?
All right. Well, it's a good thing that you asked about the Urim and Thummim. Urim means light, as in revelation, or to illuminate. So it means to reveal or to shine light on, in a sense. And Thummim comes from the word thumb, not thumb, T-O-M-E, is how it's spelled. And it stands for purification, as in integrity. Now, since you jumped there, we'll go ahead and deal with that. Let's go to verse 3. Who are to make the garments and stuff for Aaron?
The wise-hearted?
The wise-hearted.
Those who've been filled with the Spirit or wisdom.
All right. So those who have been filled with the wisdom of spirit, and they're supposed to use this for what? This wisdom that they've been given.
To make Aaron's garment, to sanctify him for his serving as priest to YAH.
Okay. All right. So that's a good thing to pick up. That these are people who are wise-hearted, who have been given special gifts. So if they're to be used to create the things that YAH has for Aaron to serve, if they're not being used in the proper way, how do you think that those gifts are being used?
Well, not used in the right way, they're used improperly.
It's very obvious.
I thought so, Sherlock.
Yeah, thank you, Captain. So, but yeah, that's the thing, is that they are used improperly. That means that they can be used in a manner that is worldly, in a sense. Now, did it say that this gift had already been on them, or was this something that was just given to these people?
No, I take that they've had it.
Okay, and so this is what I'm trying to point out, that these gifts are gifts that are already on the people. Understand, when they made the golden calf, who was that made by?
The people down at the foot of the mountain, and Aaron put it together.
Okay, but everybody went up there and made the golden calf?
Yeah.
They might have pitched in.
No, well, they gave their jewelry, their earrings and stuff.
So but those who have been given that wisdom on how to work with gold and things of that nature,
Put the calf together.
Right. They were the ones to put it together. And so this is what I'm trying to point out, is that it's very important, for one, for us to recognize the gifts that the Ruach has put in us. And then two, to make sure that we're using it for YAH, to develop those gifts, as these people had developed the gifts that YAH had given them. So if they've already developed those gifts, then they're ready to be of service. But if we don't develop the gifts that YAH gives us, if we forsake them, put them to the side, and don't utilize them, then when YAH needs us to be able to use them, they're not there.
Yeah.
So that's what it talks about. Now, going back to the Urim and the tummy. Out of all the gifts on the garment, of all the ornaments and everything that's on the garment of Aaron, these are the only two that there's given no direction to these who are wise to use, to make. But where do you think this comes from? The Urim and the Thummim. Denise,
What?
where do you think they would come from? Did you hear that, MD?
No, what did she say? She didn't know.
You didn't know. She had no idea. Where do you think they come from, MD?
Well, I'm seeing that it was placed on Aaron's garment, right?
Right.
So that it would be in the breast pocket
Mm-hmm.
for him to use in judgment.
Okay. Now you remember what the judgment, what the things were, what they represented.
Yeah, Urim is to reveal,
Mm-hmm.
and Thum is for integrity.
All right.
And so this is for when Aaron went into the Holy of Holies.
Mm-hmm.
He has these two things on his heart before he goes in there, before the face of YAH.
Right. So, and the Urim also stands for light, to illuminate.
Okay.
So, where was the light coming from in this area?
The menorah.
Okay. So when they go into the Holy of Holies, there is no light. So where do you think this light comes from?
This would be an aura around Aaron to light.
Well, yeah, I don't know about the but yes, in a sense, it will be that he's supposed to bring that light that the menorah represents, which is the light of YAH shining on the face of the children of Israel. He, with this Urim, is supposed to bring that same light in when he goes before YAH. And he's also supposed to bring the Thummim, which is the integrity or the perfection of judgment. So the light, which reflects YAH, YAH's judgment, YAH's perfect judgment in there when he goes to go before YAH. That's what he's supposed to be seeking when he's in there. So I understand that this room is supposed to be dark. And so when he goes in there, that's what he's supposed to do. He's supposed to have this breastplate over him. And what was the breastplate for? What all did it have, Denise? MD.
Ah,
Where was it placed?
okay. It was to have all these stones on it, and each one was to bear to represent a tribe.
Okay.
Uh, uh,
And it's supposed to be over his heart. So
yeah.
what it's supposed to be, what it's supposed to represent is that to make it short and simple. One, it's supposed to be set up to where it's supposed to be on there with the shoulder garment. It's supposed to be tied on so it doesn't fall off. It's supposed to cover his heart, and it's supposed to have representation of the 12 tribes. So once again, this is symbolic of all the things that he has on. It's supposed to be something that, and it's also supposed to have the Urim and the Thummim in there. And understand this, because you'll be able to pick up on this, MD, that the Urim, although we spell it with a U, is the actual Hebrew spelling of it begins with the Alf. And the Thummim is the Tav. What does that represent?
The beginning and the end.
And who is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As they used to say in the church, as they probably still do, the Alpha and the Omega.
That's Greek.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's why I said you should pick up on this. The Greek is the Alpha and the Omega, but in the Hebrew is the Alpha and the Tav. And so when you understand that part of it, you understand that this Urim and Thummim once again is another representation of YAH. That's something that he has on him so that he understands that when I go in, and this is probably why he had to have the bells on, because if his heart wasn't right, if his heart wasn't covered correctly, and he goes in there and he got the wrong heart for the children of Israel, he might not make it out.
Yeah, that's right. That's why they had that little hook on him to pull him back.
So that's why they had them little bells on him, and he ain't ringing. So I ain't heard no ringing in a while.
Yeah,
he might not have made it. Yeah. So and so that was supposed to be so that he would have a righteous judgment for the children of Israel. So with that in mind, for us to also be representations of the priesthood in the order of Melchizedek, what does that say about those of us who are supposed to be intercessors for the children of Israel?
Boy, I would think we're supposed to be that light that Aaron went into the Holy of Holies with, and we should be walking with integrity.
Right.
And to me, that's saying, well, if we ain't doing right, we get a double woe.
Yeah, a double woe. Yeah, because we don't have those bells on.
Yeah.
Indicate the other day he ain't dropped off. So, but that's the thing, and we're supposed to be to begin with in the inner area, and be able to move also into the Holy of Holies. So once again, we as a people, if Yah's dwelling with us and everything, then we have to understand and we have to know that we as a people have to live according to what he's called us to do. We have to do that with integrity, and we have to do that with righteous judgment. We also need to illuminate or reflect the light of Yah on the children of Israel. And that only comes from being pure. That's where the pure oil comes from, because the not pure or the not clear oil doesn't burn as good. So you have a lot of soot and stuff with that. One of the things that come to mind for me is that when you get like those kerosene lights and stuff, if you get something that got a lot of garbage and soot in it, it gives off a lot of smoky stuff. It'll clog up your glass real quick on your lamp and everything else. But the purer your fuel is, the better light that it gives off, and it doesn't darken things as quick. Anybody got anything else they want to add on that? Denise? Yep. All right. So go to next
29.
29. Exodus chapter 29. Denise, would you like to read? You have to read loud so people can hear you. Go ahead.
And this is the task you shall do to them, to set them apart, to serve me as priests. Take 1 young bull and 2 rams, perfect ones, and unleavened bread and unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil. Make these of wheat flour. And you shall put them in 1 basket and bring them in the basket, along with the bull and the 2 rams. Then you shall bring Aaron and his sons to the door of the tent of meetings and wash them with water. And you shall take the garment and shall put on Aaron the long skirt and the robe of the shoulder garment and the breastplate, and shall gird him with the embroidered band on the shoulder of the shoulder garment, and shall put the turban on his head, and shall put the set apart sign of dedication on the turban, and shall take the anointing oil and pour it on his head and anoint him. Then you shall bring his sons and put long shirts on them, and shall gird them with girdles, Aaron and his sons, and put the turbans on them. And the priesthood shall be theirs for an everlasting law. So you shall ordain Aaron and his sons, and you shall bring near the bull before the tent of meetings, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the bull, and you shall slaughter the bull before Yahuwah by the door of the tent of meetings, and take some of the blood of the bull and put it on the horns of the altar, and your finger, and pour all the blood beside the base of the altar. And you shall take all the fat that covers the entrails and in the appendage on the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fat that is on them, and burn them on the altar. But the flesh of the bull and its skin and its dung you shall burn with fire outside the camp. It is a sin offering. And take 1 ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram, and you shall slaughter the ram, and you shall take its blood and sprinkle it around on the altar, and cut the ram in pieces and wash its entrails and its legs, and place them upon its pieces and on its head. And you shall burn the entire ram on the altar. It is a burnt offering to Yahuwah. It is a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahuwah. And you shall take the 2nd ram, and Aaron and his sons shall lay their hands on the head of the ram. And you shall slaughter the ram, and take some of its blood, and put it on the tip of the right ear of Aaron, and on the tip of the right ear of his sons, on the thumb of their right hand and on the big toe of their right foot, and sprinkle the blood around the altar. And you shall take some of the blood that is on the altar and some of the anointing oil and sprinkle it on Aaron and on his garments and his sons and on the garments of his sons with him. And he and his garments shall be set apart, and his sons and the garments of his sons with him. And you shall take the fat of the ram and the fat tail and the fat that covers the entrails and the appendix on the liver and the 2 kidneys and the fat on them and the right thigh. It is for a ram of ordination. And the loaf of bread and 1 cake made with oil and 1 thin cake from the basket of the unleavened bread that is before Yahweh. And you shall put all these in the hands of Aaron and in the hands of his sons, and you shall wave them, a wave offering before Yahweh. Then you shall take them from their hands and burn them on the altar as a burnt offering, a sweet fragrance before Yahweh. It is an offering made by fire to Yahweh, and you shall take the breast of the ram of Aaron's ordination and wave it, a wave offering before Yahweh, and it shall be your portion. And from the ram of ordination you shall set apart the breast of the wave offering which is waved, and the thigh of the contribution which is raised, of that which is for Aaron, and of that which is for his sons. And it shall be from the children of Israel for Aaron and his sons by a law forever, for it is a contribution. And it is a contribution from the children of Israel from their peace offerings, their contribution to Yahweh. And the set apart garments of Aaron and his sons after him, to be anointed in them and to be ordained in them. The priest from his sons in his place puts them on for 7 days when he enters the tent of meetings to attend in the set apart place, and take the ram of ordination and cook its flesh in a set apart place. And Aaron and his sons shall eat the flesh of the ram and the bread that is in the basket by the door of the tent of meetings. And they shall eat those offerings with which the atonement was made, to ordain them, to set them apart. But let a stranger not eat them, because they are set apart. And if any of the flesh of the ordination offering or of the bread be left over until the morning, then you shall burn up with what is left over. It is not eaten, because it is set apart. And so you shall do to Aaron and his sons according to all I have commanded you. 7 days you shall ordain them, and prepare a bull each day as a sin offering for atonement. And you shall cleanse the altar when you make atonement for it, and you shall anoint it to be set apart. For 7 days you shall make atonement for the altar and set it apart. And the altar shall be most set apart. Whatever touches the altar is to be set apart. And this is what you prepare on the altar: 2 lambs a year old daily, continually. Prepare the lamb in the morning, and the other lamb prepare between the evenings, and 1/10 of the ephah of flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of pressed oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine as a drink offering with the 1 lamb. And prepare the other lamb between the evenings, and with it prepare the grain offering and the drink offering as in the morning, for a sweet fragrance, an offering made by fire to Yahweh, a continual burnt offering for your generations at the door of the tent of meetings before Yahweh, where I shall meet with you to speak with you. And there I shall meet with the children of Israel, and it shall be set apart by my esteem. And I shall set apart the tent of meetings and the altar. And Aaron and his sons I set apart to serve as priests to me. And I shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and shall be their Elohim. And they shall know that I am Yahweh, their Elohim, who brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim, to dwell in the midst. I am Yahweh, their Elohim.
All right. Anybody got anything that they want to say about all that? Anything that steps out? So, MD, take you
Yes.
back to what we started with, the Mishkan.
Yes.
And what was that?
The Shikhan. Someone who dwells near you.
Yeah,
The
the Mishkan is the dwelling place of Yah,
place, yeah.
and it is meant to be something that dwells near, or it comes from the words that mean neighbor, or one who dwells near.
Mm-hmm.
And all that he is saying in this chapter here, when we get to verse 43 through 46, he's saying, when you set up all these things, when you set up the priests that I want you to set up, and they fulfill all the things that you've asked them to do, that I've asked them to do, this is Yah.
Mm-hmm.
After they've been set apart and they've been consecrated, the 7 days that it takes for them to be ordained. Then he says, and there I will meet with the children of Israel, and it shall be set apart by my esteem. I shall set apart the tent of meetings and the altar, and Aaron and his sons I set apart to serve as priests to me. And then he says, and I shall dwell in the midst of the children of Israel, and shall be their Elohim. And they shall know that I am Yahuwah, their Elohim, who brought them up out of the land of Mitzrayim to dwell in their midst. I am Yahuwah, their Elohim. So, this is the purpose of it all, to have his tabernacle, to have the temple, or however it is that it is there as something that dwells in our midst. It is supposed to be as a neighbor. And this is how he is setting things up. But we first have to get one another ready and available for those who are supposed to serve. We're supposed to use what? Those who are wise by the Ruach in certain areas. What are they supposed to do?
Use their talent. They were supposed to make the garment for him.
Right. Yeah, they're supposed to use their talents for the work of Yah.
Oh.
It's not just the priest, but it's also everybody else around. That's what is missed on a lot of this. A lot of times, a lot of people think that it's all just about the priest and the priest getting served and the priest doing this, that, and the other. But we see here that each person's talent is supposed to be used for the whole thing. To prepare each other, to even prepare for the priest. Those talents are supposed to be used, and we're supposed to work on our talents and grow our talents, and ultimately, what do you think that our desire should be?
to perfect our talents
so that
we can show ourselves approved.
and how do we show that?
By studying
I'm,
his word.
I'm going back to the last part that I just talked about. 43 through 46.
Yeah.
Which means what is our ultimate goal?
To be in his presence.
That's it.
Yeah.
To be in his presence. To dwell in his presence.
Now, and he said he would dwell in the midst
Right.
of us. And I will be Elohim to them.
So let me go ahead and read 30, the first 10 verses. It says, and you shall make an altar of burnt incense on it, made of acacia wood, a cubit long, a cubit wide. It is a square. 2 cubits high, its horns of the same. And you shall overlay its top and its sides all around, and its horns with clean gold. And you shall make it for a molding of gold all around, and make 2 gold rings for it under the molding on both its sides, and make them on its 2 sides. And you shall and they shall be holders for poles to lift it with. And you shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. And you shall put it before the veil, that is before the ark of witness, before the lid of atonement, that is over the witness, where I am to meet with you. And Aaron shall burn on it sweet incense morning by morning, as he tends the lamp, and he shall burn incense on it. And when Aaron lights the lamps between the evenings, he shall burn incense on it, a continual incense before Yahweh throughout your generations. Do not offer strange incense on it. Uh-oh. We start there again. Do not offer strange incense on it, or burnt offering, or grain offering, and do not pour a drink offering on it. And Aaron shall make atonement upon its horns once a year with the blood of the sin offering of atonement. Once a year he makes atonement upon it through your generations. It is most set apart to Yahweh. So here he is talking about how he's wanting to set up the table with the horns, and how that is supposed to be used as his incense table for sweet offering, and it is also used as part of the table for atonement, which he will come once a year. And does anybody remember what that day is called? The Day of Atonement?
Yeah, Yom Kippur.
Okay, Yom Kippur. All right. So there he has it. Now, he does give warnings. What was his warning? Verse 9.
You shall not offer up any strange incense and burnt offerings,
All
or
right.
food offerings, and you shall not pour out a drink offering.
All right. All right. So this is one place you ain't supposed to come with anything. No hoodoo.
Yes.
No hoodoo. This is a no hoodoo place.
Mm-hmm.
So And there we have that. So, where do we go from here?
11 to 30. We're supposed to read down to 30.
Was I supposed to read down to 30?
Well, that's what the thing says.
30:10, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
Okay.
you are correct.
All right. So let us go to Ezekiel chapter 43. You there, Denise?
Yeah.
Would you like to read?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's fine.
You and I are the only ones that
That's fine.
10 through 27.
Son of man, explain the house to the house of Israel, and when they are ashamed of their crookedness, they shall measure their measurements. And since they shall be ashamed of all that they did, make known to them the design of the house and its structure and its exits and its entrances, its entire design and all its laws and all its forms and all its Torah, and write it down before their eyes so that they observe its entire design and all its laws and shall do them. This is the Torah of the house. Up on the mountaintop, all the boundary of it all around is most set apart. See, this is the Torah of the house. And these are the measurements of the altar in cubits, that cubit being 1 cubit and a half breadth,
Hand's breadth. Hand.
and a hand breadth, and the base 1 cubit high and 1 cubit wide, with the rim all around its edge of 1 span. And this is the upper part of the altar, and from the base on the ground to the lower ledge 2 cubits, and the width of the ledge 1 cubit, and from the smaller ledge to the larger ledge 4 cubits, and the width of the ledge 1 cubit, and the altar hearth is 4 cubits high, and 4 horns extending upward from the hearth. And the altar hearth is 12 cubits long and 12 wide, square at its 4 corners. And the ledge is 14 long and 14 wide on its 4 sides, with a rim of half a cubit around it, and its base 1 cubit all around, and its steps face east. And he said to me, Son of man, thus said the Master Yahweh, these are the laws for the altar on the day when it is made, for offering burnt offerings on it, and for sprinkling blood on it. And you shall give a young bull for a sin offering to the priest, for the Levites, who are the seed of the, what is that? Sadak, who approach unto me, declares the Master Yahweh. And you shall take some of its blood and put it on the 4 horns of the altar, on the 4 corners of the ledge, and on the rim around it, and shall cleanse it and make atonement for it. And you shall take the bull of the sin offerings and shall burn it in the appointed place of the house, outside the set apart place. And on the 2nd day, you bring a male goat, a perfect one, for a sin offering, and they shall cleanse the altar as they cleansed it with the bull. When you have ended cleansing it, bring a young bull, a perfect one, and a ram from the flock, a perfect one. And you shall bring them before Yahweh, and the priest shall throw salt on them and offer them up as burnt offerings to Yahweh. Prepare the goat for a sin offering daily for 7 days, and prepare a young bull and a ram from the flock, perfect ones. For 7 days they shall make atonement for the altar and cleanse it and ordain it. And when these days are completed, it shall be on the 8th day and thereafter that the priests make your burnt offerings and your peace offerings on the altar, and I shall accept you, declares Master Yahuwah.
All right. So, do you think Ezekiel was still talking about the tabernacle?
Well, he's talking about us being the tabernacle. We're supposed to be a temple.
Yes. But in this, do you think he was setting this up in the same manner that the tabernacle was set up? Do you think he was resetting back up the tabernacle? What do you think he was setting up?
I think he was resetting it.
Okay. Last week when we were studying, what was King Solomon doing?
He was trying to finish building what his daddy had started.
Well, his dad didn't start it. He couldn't start it because remember he had. So what was King Solomon building?
He was building the temple.
The temple. So there's a difference between the tabernacle and the temples.
Oh, okay.
The same thing that they had to go through in with the tabernacle. These are the same things that they had to go through each time that they built the temple. So on the first temple and even on the second temple, these were the things that they had to go through in order to do this. So it's showing that these measurements and these things were redone again each time that the temple was built and rebuilt. These things had to go again so that Yah would once again come and dwell in their midst in these temples.
Get up in your bed, you're trying to walk on this water. Give it 10 minutes, okay?
So, and so as you can see, the issues with these were are the measurements and things as he was putting it are the ones that were same according to the were the same according to what was said earlier with the tabernacle. So anybody got any questions about that?
No.
Now who was what was it Aaron and them who was being set up as priest and stuff on during this?
What was the question now?
Was Aaron and his sons the ones being set up as priests?
Yes, I believe they were. But if the tabernacle and the temple are different,
Read 19.
and you shall give to the priests, the Levites, they who are from the seed of Zadok. Okay, now who is Zadok?
Yeah. Zadok is the lineage of which these priests are coming from.
Well, I know, but
Does anybody remember when the priesthood was
hey.
Change?
Go get your trash.
When the priesthood did what now?
When the priesthood was changed from Aaron.
No.
You don't remember, Denise?
Mm-hmm. Might have been when Aaron died.
Huh?
When he
Well,
died.
what happened to Aaron's son? What was one of the last things?
He got swallowed up because he went against y'all's command.
Well, but a couple of them, something else happened to him. What was one of the last things that we read in Exodus when he gave a warning? Don't bring what? Any strange fire?
Fire.
Yeah. Now, do you remember that?
Yes, vaguely.
Hold on just a second. We got 19. So, now, these were still the descendants of Aaron, but Zadok, he was also one who went up there and I'm trying to see if they put it out on here. Why? Okay, well, this ain't showing what I'm looking for. And I can't recall the one's name who when I know what I want to say, but it's not coming to mind. But anyhow, it was during the time when they were dealing with Balaam. And Balaam was they were wanting Balaam to curse the children of Israel, and he went and gave insight to those who were wanting to curse them, and they sent their daughters and stuff in to the children of Israel, and they were doing some horrific stuff to them. And the plague broke out, and this one guy went up and impaled the man and the woman while they were in the act of whatever hideous stuff that they were doing.
Okay, and the spear went through. He
Yeah.
only used one spear to go through both of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so it was at that point in time that it wasn't just Aaron and his sons, but that's when it was transferred over to all the Levites. Now, Aaron was a Levite, but it was transferred to not just his sons, but to all the Levites at that point in time. So, so that's what part of the reference of the Levites coming in, and it's also going that to those who are the seed of Zadok. And so Zadok was also a son of Aaron, who was also a Levite. So, but it is also declaring this to all of them. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So where do we go from here? We go to
Matthew.
Matthew. So I want you guys to try to pick all this up. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. I had that marked earlier. But,
Yeah, to 20.
yeah, chapter 5, 13 through 20. And this should bring it all the way home. So, when you're there, shout hallelujah. Remember all the stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So,
Hallelujah.
all right, we there. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13 through 20. It says, you are the salt of the earth. Okay. You are the salt of the earth. But
That's
if the
Matthew.
salt, yeah, Matthew chapter 5.
Yeah. Verse.
What did I say? Where am I?
Yeah, you're right. I was in verse 5. Somebody said, mine ain't saying nothing about
Okay.
salt.
Yeah, I was going to say. All right. Well, maybe I'm tripping.
All right.
All right. Let me go back again. Matthew chapter 5, verse 13.
Yeah.
And it says, if you are the salt of the earth. Funny thing is that we read this so often, especially when we're in church. But then we never put it all together. You are the salt of the earth. But if salt becomes tasteless, how shall it be seasoned? For it is no longer of any use but to be thrown out and be trodden down by men. You are the light of the world. It is impossible for a city to be hidden on a mountain, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it shines to all those in the house. Let your light so shine before men, so that they see your good works and praise your Father who is in the heavens. Do not think that I've come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete. For surely I say to you, till heaven and earth passes away, not one jot or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah till all be done. Whoever then breaks one of the least of these commands and teaches men so shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. But whoever does and teaches them, he shall be called great in the reign of heaven. For I say to you that unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall by no means enter into the reign of the heavens. Did I go too far, or was that right where I need to stop at?
I believe that is right where you're supposed to stop.
All right. So, coming to a very familiar part. Let's break it all down from the very beginning. When it talks about the salt, it says, you are the salt of the earth. What is this reference?
The priest.
Denise says the priest and the Levites. MD,
Okay.
you agree? Disagree? Want to add?
Well, I don't disagree. It's maybe add. Salt back then had great value, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was used to preserve the food, when they killed the animals and stuff. And at one particular time, I believe it was used, they could even use it to pay their employees. And also the animals. And we see that even today where they put a block of salt out in the pasture for the animals to go up and take a lick off of it. So
that's one manner. But let me read to you the definition, because you covered just about all of them. It says salt, with which food is seasoned and sacrifices are sprinkled. Those kinds of saline matter used for fertilize arable land. Salt is a symbol of lasting concord because it protects food from putrefaction and preserves it unchanged, according to the solemn ratifications of compacts the Orientals were and are to this day accustomed to partake of salt together. So that must be one of their little customs. And then number 4 is salt is a reference to wisdom and grace. So what were some of the people, when we were talking about earlier, who had the ability to do things? What were they given? How did you recognize who was to be used and prepare?
They were given wisdom.
Right. Wisdom from what?
The Spirit.
Yeah, from the Spirit. So when it says that when your salt has lost its saltiness, or lost its taste.
You throw it out and it's trampled down by men.
All right. So what is it saying?
That
in reference to that.
That when you lose the mark, step over there with the secular world.
What was the salt used for earlier?
To preserve?
No, I'm talking about in the scripture that we read earlier. But not, it was the wisdom. What was it used for?
To build the tabernacle.
It was used for Aaron's stuff, for the priestly stuff, for the stuff for YAH. So when it's saying when your salt has lost its taste.
So when you're no longer doing it for YAH, that's when you'll get trampled under by the feet of. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. So, and that's where he's breaking down there. Then it comes to the light. And what we read earlier today, what was the light supposed to represent, and where was it supposed to be shined on? Where'd the light come from?
From the menorah.
Which shone on what?
On his face.
The face of what? You're getting close. And in the inner part.
On the face of Aaron. For when he walked in to the Holy of Holies. To stand before YAH.
You're jumping.
Oh, okay.
It was what was in that room where the menorah? Yeah. There was a menorah and there was the showbread. And the showbread represented
the 12 tribes.
All right. It was also called the face or the presence of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when the light shone on, it was supposed to shine on
the face of the 12 tribes.
Right. So, and that's what it's talking about when it talks about our light here. Our light is to once again shine on our people. And as he's putting it here, it's supposed to shine even on the whole world. That we're not supposed to hide our light. And what did the light represent? Where did the light come from?
The menorah.
And what was that light supposed to be? The light that was shining on the menorah was supposed to be, as we say in the Aaronic blessing.
Yeah.
Your light, your face
Right.
shine.
Whose face? Whose face?
God's face. Yeah.
God's face shines upon the children of Israel. So we're supposed to reflect that same light. And that's supposed to shine upon the children of Israel. And so as it's saying, when you take that into consideration, one, you're not supposed to hide that. It even brings reference to in verse 15. It says, nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, which will be the menorah. And it shines to all those in the house. What house are we referring to?
The house of YAH.
Which is also considered the house of Israel.
Jacob. Oh, all right. Jacob is Israel.
Yeah. You're making it rougher than what it's got to be. So it says, let your light so shine before men, that they see what?
Your good works.
Okay. So let's stop. Go ahead.
Okay.
What were you saying?
And that they may glorify your Father.
Okay. But when it comes to your good works, the good works that they're supposed to see, what are they supposed to see? See, this is why I say in Christianity, they talk about this. Let your light so shine. But what are they supposed to see? As it says here, your good works. But what are your good works?
Well, that would be what you're doing for your neighbor, what you're doing for your community.
And where do you get that information from? To determine whether or not it's good or not.
You're making it hard for me.
Well, you ran down the rabbit hole. I'm just trying to steer you back to.
Push me back up.
Yeah. What are you reading?
The Torah.
The Torah.
Okay. All right.
That's where you determine what your good works are. I mean, that's where he's going, even in this.
Yeah, he says.
Yeah.
Until heaven and earth pass away.
That's right. So that's what he's saying. I'm letting you know that let your light so shine so that they can see your good works and praise your Father who is in heaven. These good works come from the Torah. So he's saying, so don't think I come to destroy the Torah or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to complete or to fulfill that. But even in that interpretation, as I tell people, the law says that you're supposed to stop at this stop sign. Just because you stopped at it today, does that mean that you get to run every stop sign and stoplight from that point on?
No.
That's right. You say, well, I fulfilled it. I completed it back there. That don't mean nothing. That shows that you know how to. So you should continue to. So, and that's what it's talking about when it says good works as in plural. That you're supposed to continue. It says, for truly I say to you, till heaven and earth passes away, not one jot or one tittle shall by no means pass from the Torah until all be done. So we're still on earth. So earth ain't passed away. I can look up in the sky and I still see the heavens. So it's still out there. So the Torah is still here. Then he breaks it down even more. So whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches man so, which means to teach them to do what he's doing, shall be called least in the reign of the heavens. And whoever teaches them, whoever does, which means does the commands, and teaches them, which means teaches men to do that, he shall be called great in the reign of heaven. I pointed this out once before, and I had a young man tell me, well, at least I'll be in heaven even if I'm the least. So then you got to point out that, you're trying to twist what he's saying. So he breaks it down a little bit further so that people will understand that it ain't that you're going to be the least in heaven. As in, I'd rather be a doorkeeper in the house than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. But you ain't even the doorkeeper. Because he breaks it down even in the next verse, even a little bit deeper. He says, for I say to you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and the Pharisees, which we know had issues in that day, that you shall by no means, what?
Shall enter.
Enter where?
Into the kingdom of Yahweh. Never.
That's right. So that you ain't going to even enter into the kingdom. So, and that's what he's pointing out, that if your righteousness don't even matches up to theirs, you ain't going to make it in. You got to at least do what they doing. So for those who want to go up there and say, well, I ain't got to do it. He says, I still gonna make it in. Well, he breaking it down. No, there is a pass and fail mark on this. These people here, the scribes and the Pharisees, their level is the cutoff. Unless your righteousness exceeds theirs, you ain't gonna make it in. And we know that they had issues. So when we are considering all this, our conclusion is just as simple, that our mindset and the mindset of our people should be for YAH to dwell among us, and that there be purification and consecration for his people. And that purification and consecration comes through the Son of Yeshua. When he dwells with us. We read what YAH had put down, and we also know that Yeshua is YAH in the flesh. That is only when we get that understanding. If YAH is in the flesh and YAH is Yeshua, YAH and Yeshua are one. Shema Israel, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. YAH is one, not two, not three, not 25, but YAH is one. Then we should, with that understanding, understand that when we say Yeshua, that we're still referring to YAH. But we are are looking at him being in our presence as our neighbor. And that as Yeshua did when he was here, he was always seen in the temple. he was always seen honoring the Shabbat. He was always seen doing the feast days and fulfilling the Torah. Then if he's in our midst and he's our neighbor and he's dwelling with us and we're with him, how can we be with Yeshua and we not be doing the things that he's doing? A lot of people want to talk about Shaul or Paul and the things that he said. But I always ask them, is your faith supposed to be in Shaul or is your faith supposed to be in Yeshua? So, regardless of what Shaul says, as Kepha, Peter said, you know, the things that Shaul says is kind of hard even for those who understand to follow and keep. So, for the layman or the lame men, those who are hampered and don't even have the understanding, to go up there and think that they can discern what Paul is saying and discern it to say that, oh, you ain't got to do these things. You're in contradiction to everything that Yeshua stood for and what he said. So, with that being said, I'm open for any questions because I'm good for the moment. Anybody got any questions? Ronette? MD?
No,
Go too deep for you?
it's deep. You know, it makes you stand back and take a look at yourself.
Denise? All right. Well, with that being said, if our hearts and mind are clear, then we'll go ahead and do the closing of the Torah.
All right.
All right. And so this is the Torah given by Moshe to the children of Israel
The children of Israel.
at the command of Yahuwah through the hand of Moshe. The ironic blessing is, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe saying, speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, this is how you baruch the children of Israel. Say to them, Yahuwah baruch you and guard you. Yahuwah makes his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and give you peace. Thus they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I myself shall baruch them. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
All right. Hey, she finally got in there.
Yep.
So do you have any questions or anything? Any comment?
No, I was just listening. It was a good one, what I heard.
All right. Well, with that being said, I hope everybody had an opportunity to gain a little something from it.
Yep.
It was beneficial for me, I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I will make a copy of this and send this out.